Hey friends, Pastor Michael from Organic Church, here with Sydney Erickson, Don Reed, Beth Jarvis, Nick Offolter, and Pastor Roger Deerdorf. All right, here it is. Describe a time when you held a belief about something or someone which turned out to be wrong.
Okay.
Roger's going to start.
He's ready.
He was ready for that.
Have you ever?
Wait, are you asking a question or answering the question? You're answering the question with the question.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Yeah, that's how I am.
Are we live already?
Oh, yeah, we're live. We're going. We're going.
There was no music intro
Yeah.
that you could hear.
It's strange without that.
It's
Okay,
very
sorry,
strange.
Roger.
No. Go ahead.
He's like,
They're
I'm holding on to
lying.
this.
They listened to music. We didn't.
Right.
The
Yeah,
podcast
the listeners did, but
Yes.
because we used to mix everything live
Yep.
while we were here, it's really weird to kick off without that, like, hey, friends, Pastor Michael from Organic Church,
Yeah.
because it was so, that
Yeah.
was how you started
It's
it.
just
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's put
And
in there
around the table
beforehand
is-
now.
Yeah.
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 No, but have you ever recommended someone for a
Oh, good
position or a job
one. Oh,
that
yeah.
you knew them, you thought you knew them,
Right.
Yep.
and then it turns out that
You didn't know their work ethic or
Yeah.
something. Mhm.
well, you knew part of their work
Yeah.
ethics, but then it goes down the
Backfired on
toilet
you.
bag.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yep.
and that I feel that reflects on you.
Yeah.
You're absolutely
It's-
right.
Yeah.
Yes,
for sure.
absolutely.
No doubt about it.
Well, I was waiting for some sort of a comment. Where
Well-
he was
Oh, no.
looking.
My daughter doesn't have the same work ethic that I have. She's like, I'm not going to, what'd she say, work to live or however she words it. I don't know. She's like, you
I
work
live-
way too
I
many
live- oh.
hours,
Live to
Mom.
work.
Oh,
Yeah.
I live to
She-
work.
That-
Right, that's-
well, it's so funny that you would say that exactly like that, because I called my wife on the way home and I said, hey, listen, let's talk about just money in general. Where can I take a break? Like, can I stop for a little bit because I'm tired? I don't want to do everything. I don't want to have to be the boss all the time anymore. I want to take a break. And she said, yeah, we would be fine. And I think the older you get, the more you realize that you don't have to spend your identity is not in the job or in the work that you do. Your identity is generic answer. Your identity is in Christ, but like my identity is in the time that I spend with my family, the relationship that I have with my kids, and all of those things. So how do I give back versus how do I give back emotionally and something that has a positive impact rather than just working all the time in order to make money.
And to provide. Yeah.
You know, Alyssa and I were talking about you and Chase the other day, said, in a very good way, by the way.
Thanks.
I feel like I should preface that before I start talking. But we said, you know, it's really nice. You guys, Chase paid off your house. I mean, he bought a fixer-upper intentionally.
Right.
You don't have to worry about him.
Yes.
So when the baby comes, you can take off time because you're not going to be like, crap, we have to make a mortgage payment.
Well, and not only that, but we also kind of, I was telling you about the financial advisor and, after COVID, I was so burnt out, like from my job. I'm like, I don't want to go back. And it's like, I had the chance to like, okay, you don't have to go back.
Right.
Whereas my friend was in the same position. She's like, well, we've got this $900 mortgage. Like,
Have to go
I
back.
have to go back.
Yeah, I don't have a choice.
So, yeah.
That was kind of what we were talking about. And, I just
Don't get me wrong. There's struggles with that, but in the long run.
Because you said, like, you don't want to go in your basement.
Right.
Like,
No,
when
no,
you
no.
buy a house like that, you do like
Under
the
20-year-old house. No.
things that you have to deal with, you have to be okay with. But when you, just like you said, I don't want to live to work. I don't, how does Dave Ramsey say it? Make your money work for you.
Yeah.
That's like, that's one of his big,
Yeah.
I think that's how he says
Yeah,
it, but
like
something to the
dictate it.
effect of,
You don't want to.
don't let your money tell you what to do. You tell your money what to do. Like he's always a huge proponent of you telling life what you want out of it and making life give that to you based on the actions that you take, the decisions that you make.
Unless you work hours like I do and forget to tell your 3 employers to take extra money out for you.
Yeah.
yeah.
I bet.
I forgot to do that last year.
Yeah. That doesn't feel good at tax time, does it?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wrote our checks for us, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just no. Not fun.
We only ever owe the city, but we always owe the city a substantial amount of money.
Yeah.
And we pay quarterly. But the thing is we don't know for sure what I'm going to make
Right.
because I get bonuses.
It's an estimate.
And so you can kind of guess, but you don't really know for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And our tax lady's always like, well, we'll overshoot for next year. And then it's still not
Doesn't
right.
matter.
And then it's
Yeah.
still like,
Yep.
still end up writing a check and
Yep.
still doesn't feel good.
I'm not going to discuss taxes.
That's not like in tax season, is she?
No.
Is she? But Roger, I would agree with you. It's really hard when you, and whether it's a job or even just a recommendation for like, hey, you should go use this baker for your birthday cake because they do a really great job.
Yes.
I had that happen. Aaron's birthday, we were living in Newark and he wanted to have a Pokemon birthday party and we were going to have the party at Chuck E. Cheese in Canton. We lived in Newark. We were going to have the party in Canton because all of our families lived up here, so it was easier for everybody to go up there. So we booked the party. We ordered the cake from a mom and pop shop. And the lady messages me 2 days before and says, hey, I'm so sorry, but I'm not going to be able to make your cake. And I'm like, unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 days before.
2 days before,
Yeah.
I can't get a cake in 2 days. I said,
Especially if you want it
absolutely
personalized. And,
unacceptable. All it was a round cake that looked like a Pokeball. So it wasn't anything major.
right.
And she was very unconcerned about the fact that I was unhappy, but it didn't matter to her. It wasn't, but she came as a recommendation. And when I called that friend, I was like, hey, like, have you ever had this happen? They're like, no, I can't believe it. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, well, it's not your fault.
Right.
But
Right.
when somebody makes that recommendation and it doesn't
Yeah.
pan out, it's really rough.
Yeah.
Really rough.
Yeah.
So, and which, by the way, makes me take that very seriously. So when somebody recommends me for something like, hey, you should call Michael, he should be able to help you with that. It requires, and I would rather tell you no
Yeah.
and say, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. I don't
Right.
have the time,
Yeah.
rather than say, yeah, let me take care of that for you.
Yeah. And
And
then,
then it's
drop the
either
ball.
last minute or half-hearted, and I don't
Right.
want to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's
As
good.
well, that's where it is. You know, you're only as good as your word.
Yes.
Right.
Well, society today doesn't realize that.
Yeah. Well, I know. You know, your word should be a bond.
You commit to doing something. Oh, yes, I will be there for that. And then you don't show
Don't
up.
show up.
Yeah.
And it's really rough when you do, because a lot of people don't realize what that means. So even in situations where there's plenty of help, you count on
X amount of people.
not even X amount of people. You count on, okay, from a church standpoint, let's use church standpoint. The minute that somebody is holding a microphone on the platform, so I use the worship team as part of this reference, you are in some level of leadership because at any point you could use that microphone to say something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you are now held to a higher standard. Anybody who's on church council, any of those things. And even for pastors' wives and, you know, pastors' husbands in Pastor Holly's case, you know, things like that. We expect them to be there because they're part of the leadership
Right,
team.
right.
Holly referred to my wife as Pastor Alyssa the other day. And she said, you have no idea how bad I wanted to say to her, never call me that again. Because she doesn't look at herself that way, but by association, that's what she is.
Right,
So
right.
she's okay with being the first lady, but she does not want to be, there's no desire to be a pastor. But when you ask those people to show up or they say, hey, I'll be there, and then they don't show up, you have to ask yourself, is this person qualified to really genuinely be a leader, right?
Right.
Like, don't commit to it. And then, now I'm saying all of that. Nick's not here tonight, like as if I'm taking a dig at Nick. That is not the intention. Let's be very clear. Poor Nick. Margie's going to listen to this and be like, Nick, they were beating up on you hard, man. Sickness happens.
It's all my fault.
Yeah. Things happen. But when like Nick sent a text, hey, you know, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to be with you tonight. That's fine. Just not showing up is not acceptable.
No.
Just not showing up is not acceptable. And unless there is some traumatic situation.
Yes,
But
yes.
most of the time, that's not the case.
No.
It's just like,
You,
and sometimes I think it's that I need to feel missed. Do you know what I mean? Like, isn't that true? And I'm guilty of that as well. So like, if I just like fall off the face of the earth for a while, somebody's gonna reach out to me and be like, "Hey, how you been?
What's up?
Right.
You okay?
Yeah.
Miss ya."
not me.
And then it makes you,
this is, oh, please stay away.
and it makes you feel valued. But your value shouldn't come from somebody saying that
Right.
you've been missed. So
Yeah.
okay, I'm off my
Yeah.
soapbox.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, you're done. Oh, that's it. That's it.
Well, unless somebody comes up with something else.
Well, I was going to piggyback on that. I think I was a part-time manager at Maurice's during this, but we needed like seasonal help during Christmas and whatnot. And they're like, oh, do you know anyone? Well, my friend was coming back from college and wanted a job. And I've worked with her before is the thing. Like I have worked with her at a different place, so I know her work ethic. Okay, so we'll hire her. Well, then she ends up showing up for like a shift and a half. And then she's like, well, I actually had another job lined up already. I'm like, you are the one who asked me.
Yeah.
Like I was so upset, you know, I'm like, because now it's.
Well, anytime you make a recommendation to that boss, they're going to be like, no.
Yep. Yep. And then we had to cover 3 weeks worth of shifts during the busiest time of the year. Yeah. Not fun.
Yeah. That's rough. It's really, really rough. I have, even in instances similar to that, I've hired, somebody who used to attend here, they applied for work at one of my hotels. And
you're talking about Margie, aren't you?
Oh, I forgot she worked for me, didn't she? I forgot about that. But no, that would be a success story because when she left, she gave me a 2-week notice and she was super, super kind about it. Very professional. Yeah. And here's the thing. I genuinely believe this. An employer typically won't give you a 2-week notice when they fire you.
Right.
So in some instances, I'm like, I get not giving a 2-week notice, but it depends on the level at which you are working.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. But anyhow, so I get a call from one of the managers that report to me, and they said, hey, this person said that they know you. Do you know who they are? And I'm like, oh, yeah, they're wonderful. Like, absolutely love them. You know, I definitely give them a shot. Now, never worked with them, don't know their work ethic, just know that they come from a nice family. They show up for an interview, bang out the interview. I happen to walk by. I'm like, hey, how are you? And chat for just a few seconds. And then on my way I go. That manager called me 2 days later and said, hey, they didn't show up for their first shift. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I didn't put my neck on the line or anything like that. But still, it's that. And here's the problem for me. This is the big problem in this situation. I said, oh, yeah, they used to go to my church. Did you get him on the phone and say, why didn't you show up? I immediately sent a text message and I was like, hey, listen, like, I get it, but what the heck?
Yeah, did you misplace your schedule?
Yeah, like, why would you put me in a position like that? But they don't care. Most of the time, they don't care because it's not about you. It's
selfish.
It's all about me.
Yep.
Well, and it not only, I know a lot of the people that you work with are Christians alone, but if they weren't, or the person that you were working with,
that particular manager is not, and he thinks very poorly of people who are Christians because of how they act.
Exactly.
He's the one that experiences them coming in and saying, well, I'm a pastor and I just, and like that, I'm going to take this to, so yesterday, Monday, it must have been Monday, I showed up to work and I didn't have any clean clothes. Don't judge me for that. There was just no clean clothes in my house. I didn't have any clean jeans. Okay. So I go to work in black dress slacks and a white dress shirt. And I walk into his office and he goes, are you here to tell me about your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ? Because I straight up look like somebody who might knock on your door. It was funny. And there were people in the office and they are dying at this point. I was like, good one. Fair enough.
I deserve that.
Fair enough. Yeah, it was pretty funny. But, so that guy now is like, so if anybody else from my church were to apply there, he would be like,
exactly.
And he might ask, he might say, hey, what do you think? But I would even be more hesitant to say yes, even if it's somebody that I know would do a great job because
because it's happened in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes you look bad. And they say, you shouldn't ever mix work and pleasure. And while I don't think that like church is necessarily like pleasure in that phrase, there comes a risk when you start recommending. And
it's like an extracurricular activity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think about when there's a girl who works for us who my wife and I have known her and her fiance for a long time. But she feels like she can come straight to me with concerns, but there's a chain of command and I am like the last person she should be talking to. But because she has my cell phone number and we're friends on Facebook and yada yada, it feels acceptable. Yeah. And so I'm almost every time it's a, hey, have you talked to so-and-so? Hey, have you talked to so-and-so? And they get frustrated with it. But my point is that, first of all, I'm not the subject matter expert in what you're asking me about. But moreover, there is a chain of command for a reason. And so I am very cautious about ever mixing those two worlds.
Yeah.
So
it's hard.
It is. Because people realize they understand the size of the company that we run. And they're like, oh, hey, do you have any work? And even with relatives, like, they're like, hey, You got anything for so-and-so?
Nope.
I don't.
That
Typically what I do is I send them back to the hiring managers. Hey, you tell them to call this number and ask for so-and-so. It's so much easier for me that way because now I'm like, hey, if I walk by and you're doing an interview, I'll fist bump you and I'll say, hey, how are you? But when they ask me, I want to be like,
Yep.
My parents work for me. I was involved in neither of their hirings. I said to my owners, you want to hire them? That's your problem.
My dad
Like you negotiate salary, you negotiate hours, schedule, you make the job offer, and I will manage them like every other employee, but I will not hire my own relatives.
My dad had something similar to that, and it was before he had any authority or management where he's at now, but someone put him down as a reference, and they came and asked him like, hey, this guy put you down as reference, and what do you think? He's like, I don't like him personally. He's like, I don't know what about a good worker he is. He's like, but I can tell you I don't like him personally. And that was enough for them to be like, all right.
Yeah.
So you just got to watch like what you're doing.
And it's funny. I'll get a text every once in a while from people I've worked with a long time ago. And it'll say, hey, I used you for a reference. Hope that's okay.
Maybe you should ask before you put me down.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, gave a reference once.
And then it didn't work out.
And they blew up on the job. Like lost their temper and just blew And I was like, never again. And so when people call me, I usually tell them, well, it's been a long time since they've worked for me. And I would really be, it would be unfair of me to speak to how they are today because I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Yeah.
And so it's not me saying no,
right.
But it's like very honest. Like I'm not going to do that anymore.
Not going to put that in there.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. And there are instances when I have no problem doing it.
Yeah.
Like I wrote letter of recommendation for Mal. I will do things like that all day long as long as they merit it.
Right.
But
right.
if somebody came to me and said, hey, I'm up for a big promotion at work, will you write me a letter of recommendation? I'm going to be like, I'm going to have to think long and hard about because how do I approach this in a diplomatic way? Because I want to be honest, but I don't want to be hurtful. Do you know what I mean? Like I've had people ask me, what's my biggest weakness? What can I improve on in order to do better? And then when you tell them, they're upset with you.
Yeah.
Well, then don't ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to know what you can do better, here's what you can do better. Here's the thing. I don't ask that question because I don't want to know. I want to underperform and be okay with it, dang it.
I don't want that accountability.
Right.
That's just what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Okay. What did I do with the card?
Oh,
I lost it.
Here we go.
I lost it. I need to read it again. Yeah, there it is. Describe a time when you held a belief about something or someone which turned out to be wrong.
I guess when I first read that, I was kind of thinking like someone that I didn't like, and then it turned into someone that I did like.
Yeah, sure.
But I was kind of thinking, my first big girl job, super excited, like get in there, and this girl is sweet as can be, this employee or employer. No. Coworker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, my one coworker who's a really good friend of mine now, and we're not even working together anymore, but she's like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, there's kind of some snakes around here.
Yeah.
Like, just watch what you're doing and watch who you're telling who or what to whoever. And turned out like she's sweet as can be with all the patients and just a complete snake to everyone else and like that she's working with. But like, and it would drive you insane because you would see all these patients like, oh, I want her to clean my teeth. Oh, I love her so much. And you're like,
if only
they knew.
If
only they knew.
We had a situation at work just a few weeks ago. One of my executive housekeeper came to me. She's on corporate level with me. So like, she reports directly to me. She comes into my office. She goes, hey, we've got a problem. I'm like, no such thing as a problem. Only a setback. What are we solving today? And she said, I have a housekeeper stealing money.
Oh.
So if you stay with us in whether it's a treehouse, a cabin, a hotel, there's a little envelope that says, hey, enjoy your stay, and then you can leave a tip.
Yeah.
You don't have to, but you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The envelopes are coming up missing. And so they knew that something fishy was going on. And so before she even had the conversation with me, so my 131. So let's identify the problem, give me 3 solutions, and what is the most viable solution. And she put some tip envelopes in there with cash. She marked them specifically so that she would know if she got them back. Drew little hearts on them and little butterflies, and so she would know if they got dropped back in the tip box. And that money never came back. Those envelopes never came back. And so when she addressed the girl's like, I didn't steal any money. And she's like, okay, well, here's what I know. Here are the rooms that we put them in. We did it intentionally because we knew you would be cleaning those rooms. We drew on the envelopes very specifically, and I can describe them to you and tell you exactly what they look like. And the girl was flabbergasted that they had figured it out. Like, she had no idea that they had figured it out. And so in a very similar situation, like, this girl, to me, like, when I found out, I was blown away.
Yeah.
I was shocked. Because she was so, like, I would walk down the hallway and she would make it a point to come out of her room and speak to me. She would like, hey, how are you? How are things? How are your kids? And just like engage in conversation. And all the while, she's over here stealing other housekeepers' money.
Yeah.
I used to mark dressings like that because you knew that other nurses weren't doing
Yes.
their job.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And you can't trust anyone.
You
Yeah.
was like, really?
Yeah.
Same with like anyone that was hired. Like we would joke, we're like, she's gonna lure him in. She's gonna like she's trying to make him her evil minion.
Yeah.
She's luring him in. I'm like, oh no, not this one, not this one.
It is really sad. It
Yeah.
is sad to watch people do that.
Yeah.
So one of the ones that I like that I can use very easily is Amish culture. You know, we know the Amish culture just as like what we see and what we hear, and we don't necessarily know what's true. And working with them, I learned a lot about who they are as people, what they believe, and just how their culture operates. It's really fascinating to me to think that, and a lot of people watch like Breaking Amish and things like that. That's all made for entertainment.
Sure it is.
Those Beverly Lewis books, all made for entertainment. There might be a sprinkle of truth in those, but for the most part, it's entertainment.
Yep.
And it's designed to keep you coming back for more. Most of the time, it's very seldom any of it ever actually true. So, that was a hard one for me to get past. I used to drive 3 of them home every day. I sometimes would pick them up as well, but I would be grilling them about Amish culture the entire ride. So tell me about this. Okay, I don't fully understand this, and what about that? And explain this to me, and yada yada yada. And it was really interesting because they were so excited to talk about it because
Everyone gets it wrong.
right, they hear
Yes.
people talking about it and how incorrect it is.
Yeah.
You know, you hear one of the big things that I think we assume about the Amish, and specifically Berlin and Millersburg, are the puppy mills, right? And a lot of people out there do raise puppies.
Yeah.
A very small portion of them abuse those animals and treat them poorly and raise them in inhumane
Yeah,
conditions.
because that's an income for them.
Right.
Right.
You know, so you know, it's
Might be the only income they have.
Right.
So some of them, like it exists, don't get me wrong, but it's not like every person out there
Right.
breeds and abuses animals.
And that's what people think.
But
They're
that's
like,
because
It's like one bad apple.
yes, exactly. Yeah, and think about that in the terms of Christianity. You know what I mean? You walk into Subway and you act like a jerk and you're wearing an organic church t-shirt. They assume that everybody at organic church acts the way that you act.
Absolutely.
Right.
So you can make or break an entire group of people with your own actions. And I think that that's a lot of, again, the world, you know, so think about after post 9/11, anybody that wore a head dressing, a head covering, they were immediately public enemy number 1. They were immediately a terrorist and treated as such. That's not fair.
It's not fair.
Think of after World War II, anybody who looked like they may be of Asian descent were immediately assumed that they were. And that's a big part of the world that is bred into us, that's taught to us that, you know, you can't like people who are different than you or who may have treated your family poorly at some point in the past. So it's a really big challenge. And another hard one for me is this is a really touchy subject, and I honestly, I don't care if they hear it. It's not like I'm involved in the organization any longer anyway. But when I was working in the New Philadelphia area, I joined a nonprofit organization as a board member because I could help with group tours. I could get them bus business. I was managing a hotel. I had buses coming who were looking for specialty shows. They were able to help with it. So I had set up a bus and was on the board for 3 years, and then COVID hit and it got really, really rough. And we were doing, our meetings were via Zoom and whatnot. But anyhow, in my first year, as a matter of fact, probably my first 6 meetings, I was convinced that, and now, mind you, I was young and impressionable and didn't really know this organization very well. So I took the word of people who had been in the organization for a long time. But we had a board president who had lied to the board very plainly. They said that they had sent a certified letter that they had never sent, when actually they had just basically sent an email. Would not return phone calls or text messages, but it was because their phone had been shut off. Their cell phone had been shut off, but they didn't tell anybody. Lots of real big red flags. And I had a previous board president say, well, we need to get rid of them. And they're like, you don't really have any ties. You should make a motion to remove them as president. And I was like, well, if that's what we need to do, yeah, sure. Heck, why not? So we walk into a meeting and we're sitting there and I'm like grilling this person. Like, I don't understand why you didn't respond to these. Like you flat out lied to us, which I don't like when somebody lies to me. So I had no problem calling that out. And I don't remember what she said, but she said something that was a little off color. And I said, well, listen, I said, we're sitting here. I said, and I am fully prepared to make a motion to remove you as president. I said, and I can guarantee you, I've spoken to most of the people in this room. I won't name them by name, but you will be removed as president. At which point she stepped down. Okay. Elect a new president. We get into about 6 months into the first year. And I'm realizing that the person who convinced me to do that would convince me to do it to just about anybody sitting in that room. Because they were very aggressive and they wanted things their way and their way only.
You were the evil minion.
And I was right. Exactly. And so I never got a chance to apologize to that person. Not that I feel like they needed to be removed, but so we get several months in and we start selecting I got to be careful how I say that. Actually, I don't care. We started selecting a show season and there were names of directors that would pop up and they would be like, no, they can't, they shouldn't be allowed to direct ever again because of this, that, and the other. And they have mishandled funds and they've done this and they've done that with no physical proof. Nothing that would be like substantiated.
Just like word of mouth.
Well, and I mean, you could look at the numbers and say, okay, this should have performed very well and it didn't perform nearly as good as it should have, but it was not, didn't lose money. It didn't it wasn't egregious. It just got out of control, basically.
Well, during that time, if it was it still around COVID?
No, because we closed down during COVID. This was actually the year before I even came on the board. So I didn't even know this person, but at that moment I was then convinced that person can never direct here again. Okay. That was my mindset. And then I worked with this person on a show and I was like, they're actually not that bad. And then I saw him throw a fit, and I was like, okay, I didn't like the way that felt. But at the end of the day, I was like, they're a good director. The shows are good. They're high quality. Like, I really kind of appreciate this person for what they can bring to the table. And so we went into play reading this last season. And I was on the play reading committee and I sat down and we began to read plays and this person's name came up and we were all like, well, we like the show and they haven't directed in a couple of years and, we should give it a shot. And we were all good. And that person who liked to convince me of things happens to be on the play reading committee as well. And they walked in the room and just dropped a bomb in the middle of the table. I mean, we were all in there. We had pretty well selected a season at this point. They show up a half hour late to the meeting, walk in, and when they start to hear what we've selected, just loses their mind. And I'm talking this level of unprofessionalism like you have never seen before in your life. Just, and I don't want to say screaming, but being very loud and boisterous and I just don't understand. Maybe I shouldn't even be in the room and just on and on and on and on and on. And
you should have said, well, you should have been here on time.
That's what I was thinking.
I left the meeting. We had selected the season and I left before everybody else had left because I had to be back out at work. And I immediately sat down once my evening was over and I sent an email to the chair and I was like, hey, listen, I just got to get this off my chest. I didn't like that. I didn't like the way we were treated. I didn't like the way we felt, yada, yada, yada. And then my email ended up going to the board because it was such a big blow up. And lots of people on that committee were like, hey, this isn't fair. We shouldn't be treated this way. We were doing our job. We aren't looking at their past performances. We're looking at their forward-thinking performances. But all of that to say this, while we were sitting at the table, she looked at me, she leaned over and she said, I can't believe you're going to let this happen. She was hoping
That you do.
that she could get me to flip.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so thankful that I had grown up
Yes.
and that I had like leveled up professionally, that
Mhm.
I was able to sit there and I said to her, I said, well, I'm not worried about that anymore.
No.
We're picking this year's season.
Yeah.
Like that was
that's in the
basically,
past.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had held that perception of that director and the board president of this, like, but that was because I had allowed somebody to convince me that that's who they were and that's how they operated. And that wasn't fair of me.
I'll never understand why people like have that want and desire to even like persuade you to think otherwise.
Well, I need you.
There's
I
so
need
many
you.
people like
I
that.
need
I
you to
know,
hate
it's
the same
crazy.
people that I
Yes.
hate.
Yeah,
In order
like,
for us,
why?
in order for us to be friends, we have to hate
Yeah.
the same people.
Right.
Like you should be working on yourself not to hate anybody.
Yeah.
Let alone like trying to.
The part
lure
that would
people
make your
in.
brain explode would be to know that all of these people attend church.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You sit in a
Yes.
room full of people who are attending and actively involved in their churches, and that's how they treat
Yes.
one another.
Yes. My whole situation there at the school. These
Yeah.
women are all Christian women.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. We just treat people poorly because
Yeah.
we want to be right.
Or we'll come and lie to you straight to your face.
Yes.
And then be
Oh,
like-
yes. Yeah. Yep.
And then when they were called out on it, it was like, well, what? What do you mean?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Acting like they didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
Right.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Well, my mind didn't actually go towards people or situations.
Okay.
Exactly. Mine went to more phrases that had been said to me in
Oh.
my lifetime.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
So, like when I started in the medical career, I was 16, working as a nurse's aide, and all of my residents would say, honey, don't get old. And how time flies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, getting old is a process I can't stop.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And what do you mean how time flies? In a blink of an eye. What do you mean? This school year is never coming to an end. Summer is not coming quick enough.
Well,
What do you possibly mean? Well, today, let me tell you, I know what they mean. I'm 56. My kids are going to be 32 and 30 and in a blink of an eye.
yeah.
And so, of course, I had a reference of a scripture
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
You know, 2 Peter 3:8. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day.
Yeah.
But when I was young, you mean years
Yeah.
never coming to an end.
Yeah.
If I knew that I was going to live this long, I'd taken better care of myself before I became a Christian.
Right?
Honestly,
Yes.
honestly. And the thing is so, I've got a teenager that's, 16, he's about to start driving. You can't tell him anything.
No.
And I think to myself, how do I get through to him? And I
You
stopped
can't.
and think, I was the same
You
friggin' way.
can't. Nope.
Yep.
I was the
can't.
same way.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter how I say it. And, I say things like, hey, you have to be responsible for this. When somebody does or says, you have to take that seriously. He wants a car, but I can't get him to respond to a text message.
Right.
Not
If
going
I
to
don't
happen,
know where
man.
you are
Yeah.
while you're out in the car.
And I say things like, you have to leave your location
Location
sharing
on.
on so that I can, like, Life 360. If you get into an accident, I'm going to get notified and I can come find you. I can call
Right.
the ambulance. I can.
Right.
Right.
Like it's you might get
He doesn't
disciplined,
even-
but it's a safety measure
Yeah.
more than
Doesn't even have his phone's dead. Do you know what I mean? Like that's
Roger
not
who?
that's not gonna. And his problem is he's like, well, my phone dies so fast. It's because you're on Instagram and Snapchat all the time that like it drains your battery in an afternoon. Like his phone's always plugged in. It's always plugged in.
Can he get one of those chargers? Because it could be the phone being a couple years older too.
Okay, so then I'll buy him a new phone.
Yeah.
But the point is if you still like, I sent him a text 3 days ago that I haven't received a response to. And here's the problem: my next text to him is, "Hey, I'm going to handle that myself, but I want you to know there's a consequence for that."
Yeah.
And he's going to be, well, no, I was doing it. I forgot to answer you. Well, forgetting to answer me is like forgetting to go to work,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like you don't just get to forget.
Especially at that age.
Right.
You're not going to use the phone and respond. I'm taking it.
Yeah. Well, the phone is not from my house. It's from
Oh,
his mom's
okay.
house, which is fine. But whatever. But you're not going to get. So Alyssa and I were buying his car. We were going to buy his first car. He was still going to have to buy it, but we were going to be the bank so that he would pay us so that
Oh,
when
yeah.
cross country season came, he didn't have to work. He could just run.
Right.
We wanted him to
Yeah.
be able to focus on sports and being a kid and all of those things. But summertime, you need to get a job.
Right.
Yeah.
That's when you make your car payments.
Yep.
That's when you pay your insurance, your gas, all of those things. And I am not inclined to do so at this point because it was a very simple task that he volunteered to do. Not that I was like, hey, you have to do this. It was, yeah, I can work on that for you. I can do that.
Yeah.
And now it has to be ready by this Saturday, and I got nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to do it myself. So
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can buy yourself a new car.
maybe.
He doesn't need one.
Yeah, that's true. I don't need one.
My question is, how can you top that one?
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Get 2 of them.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, 2 of them.
I'll
Get
tell you
another
how.
color.
I'll tell you how. You could buy the Model X. Have you seen the Model X?
I don't think so.
The doors open up
Ooh.
like a DeLorean. You know how
Okay,
that-
yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. I saw one. And I was like, that's sweet.
That's probably the one. What are the Pittsburgh Steelers players?
Yeah,
have one
that's
like that.
it's probably the highest end model. I think the X is the highest end model, and then obviously you can do add-ons with the X. And
Yeah, but there's a Y and a Z also.
Listen, I couldn't even afford A on that one.
no, those are really inexpensive.
Really?
That car cash price. Now this isn't any of the rebates or any of the is $37,500.
No
That's
way.
cheap.
Honest to goodness,
Yeah.
$37,500. They're not expensive.
What year is that one?
That's a 2023.
Is it?
was brand new when we drove it off the lot. It was brand new. Yeah.
My Subaru cost more.
That's what I'm saying. My Jeep costs more than that. My Jeep costs more than that. And right now they upgraded. So they're working on the full self-driving. And so we have a free 30-day subscription to the full self-driving. Dude, it's insanity what it will do. We drove it to Akron.
Do you feel like a guinea pig?
Yeah, but see, I don't trust it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
But-
I
I
don't
wouldn't
trust
trust it
mine.
either.
I've
But-
got mine turned off.
But no, this is nothing like yours. Like yours probably keeps you in the lane and like whatnot.
Brakes for
No,
you and all of that stuff.
Listen.
This does it all.
Does it all. So I got off the Bolivar exit to go home so you can go through Zor to get to my house through Dar.
Yeah.
So we're on the interstate and I turn it on. And if it recognizes a car in front of you driving too slow, it'll turn on your turn signal. It'll change the lane for you. It'll pass that car and you turn on the turn signal and then it will get back over for you. Okay. So if you put in your GPS where you want to go, it follows that route on the GPS. You don't have to do it. It knows when to change lanes. It knows how many lanes to get over. Okay. So we do it in Bolivar when we're getting off the exit. So before we get off the exit, it knows that it's getting off the exit. So it turns on its turn signal. It slowly gets into the off ramp. It gets to the bottom. It stops at the light. When the light turns green, it makes a left. And like, I'm not touching the steering wheel. I'm not pressing the gas pedal. I'm sitting there watching it.
I could not trust it.
Now, when it says like if the speed limit is 40 and it's at a stoplight, it's to 40 before it leaves the stoplight pretty much. Like, it doesn't play games. And it has different modes. You can set it to chill, average, or aggressive. So like chill, it won't go over the speed limit. It'll like ride behind somebody rather than passing them.
Okay.
If you go to aggressive though, it's like changing lanes and like sprouts wings and jumps over stuff. It's crazy. But it is really, really cool to watch it work. And just Alyssa tells me don't be one of those guys. But honestly, if we all drove them, we'd be so much safer. Because that car won't let me hit somebody. It won't. It will dead stop in the middle of the road before it will let you hit somebody. It recognizes when there's a car too close to you. So when we were going up, a car started like drifting into our lane. It immediately shut off the autopilot so that I could take over.
That's cool.
So it's like
Yeah, because you can't trust anyone.
right when it shuts off the autopilot, the car just pretty well comes to a stop. Like it just rolls to a stop, and so it's it's pretty interesting. So one of those things that I didn't have, that I believed something different about it. I never would have trusted a self-driving car a year ago. Now I'm like, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So it's free for 30 days, but it's $199 for the year if I wanted to buy it, which isn't terrible. But do I really need
Right.
self-driving? The answer is no. But do I want it? The answer is yes. Because now I can safely text you while I'm driving.
Right.
Although it will yell so it's got a camera inside. And so if you're texting, it'll ding and the light will flash at you and it'll say, put your eyes on the road.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Did you name your car?
I have not. So our cars have always had names, but I have not named that one.
Well, this one talks to you even.
Yeah.
You've got to name it.
Yeah, I haven't named it. I haven't named it. Yeah. My wife.
Tessie the Tesla.
So that was kind of, I was going to say, that's the easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
my wife's my wife has a Chrysler Pacifica, and we've named it minivan. And I was like,
Oh,
I like that one.
man.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a Chevy Impala, and we named it Chevy Chase. Anyhow, okay. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, another one of my things was when people would say, time heals all wounds, or your grief,
Yeah.
you know, and I always thought, well, you just haven't lost anybody close enough
Yeah.
to you yet, you know, because really time doesn't heal
no.
that.
No.
It
You
doesn't
just-
heal that at all.
You learn to
just
live.
learn
to deal with
Yep.
it.
You learn to
Yeah.
cope.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you have to continue living. You know, you just have
You
to
have no
figure out
choice.
how. So that's always been another one of my things that
Let's talk about that in a slightly different context other than just like death loss. I struggle with that when we lose a member of our congregation. Like I really mourn that loss, and it's hard. It's really hard because it's somebody that I felt like I've poured into or I've tried to care for, and then they're like, meh.
Or even
Right.
like if you're putting boundaries up and people think you're the bad person because
Well-
you're putting those boundaries up, like it still hurts to grieve that relationship that you thought you could have one day, but then you had to
Right.
end up putting those down for
yeah,
your
when
own
Joe
sanity.
and I separated, literally,
Yeah.
I felt like it was a death.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 It's hard. It's really hard. And, you know, you think about even like teenage heartbreak
Yeah.
is really similar in that
Yeah.
same act.
Yeah, for
Do
sure.
you know what I mean? When the mother of my oldest two children and I, when her and I separated, that was miserable for me. I struggled with that for a long time. I went through serious depression, and I, you know, I struggled with so many different things that I couldn't wrap my head around. I couldn't figure out why, because I genuinely did not like her as a person.
Yeah.
But the loss of having that person in your life
Right.
is
That's
weird.
all you knew for how many years.
Right,
and-
like you come home to an empty house, and like all of the things that you
You
were
have to
used
learn
to.
to do it
that's
without
rough
them.
at
Yeah,
first.
Yeah.
and it's really strange. And so, you know, I look around on Sunday mornings, and this is something that everybody who has never been a pastor needs to understand. And even Roger doesn't. No, I don't. I didn't mean this to sound disrespectful. If it does,
No
So,
problem.
Okay, so
I'm used to you.
no, this might sting a little bit, but I don't mean it to sting. So, okay. People do not give enough grace to their pastors because people think, oh, well, I've experienced that. I'm going to tell you something. You don't carry the stuff that your senior pastors carry. You don't understand even a fraction of the crap that we go through. Like when I get that call that, you know, so-and-so is attending another church, you know, a pastor calls and says, hey, so-and-so's been attending here. I just wanted to make sure you were good. That hurts. But that's pastor code. Like John Stevenson,
Yeah.
if somebody goes to his church and he knows that they were coming here, he picks up the phone and he calls me.
That's nice.
And I would do the same for
Yeah.
him. I would do the same for any other pastor. If I know that they are attending somewhere else and I have a connection with that pastor, I will
Right,
call
right.
them and say, hey, I just want you to know.
Yeah.
Like, is there anything I need to know? Are you good? Like,
Yeah.
all of those
We
things.
good. Mhm.
So things like that, and then so you take that phone call and you deal with that, and then you're dealing with the constant like you can't do anything right, nothing's ever good enough, and even when you feel like it's good enough, you walk away and somebody else is talking about it like, oh, that was really like, oh, people get upset with you because they think whenever you're preaching you're talking about them because you know conviction hurts,
That's
but
conviction.
Right.
I know,
That's right.
but it's really hard to handle and to really like focus on and compartmentalize all of that stuff. And I want you to think about that from the standpoint of somebody who's not just a senior pastor, but also like a full-time day job.
Yeah.
I have to guard my time very closely.
Oh, yeah.
Like whenever I leave work and I come here, I have to turn off work and turn on church, and then do the same whenever I go to work. I have to try to turn off church and do work because it's not fair for them to.
Well, then you got to turn them both off for your family.
Right. And
So-
and that's impossible. It is impossible. So my family always suffers. And again, so many people are like, and this is like worship team leaders. This is associate pastors. And again, I don't mean you, Roger, but like big churches, like pastors who were like over kidsmen and things like that. They're like, oh, well, I do this and that and the other. It's not the same. I'm telling you, until you've done it, you don't get it. It sucks. It is the worst feeling in the world. You know, I had lunch with, one of the things that you said is that it's a reflection of you.
Right.
I believe that anything that I do in ministry is a reflection of not just me, but our church
Right,
and of,
Yeah.
of ministry in general. And so have I refused to perform a wedding? Yep. Because I didn't feel like it was the right thing for my ministry. It's a reflection of my ministry. Have I not done a hospital visit because that person was not a member of my flock? Yes. Because it's not, I have to guard my time.
Exactly.
But then I'm the bad guy for not
For not doing it.
doing
Not
it
doing
or
it.
not supporting or helping or taking care of. And it's just not fair to think that one person has to be all of those things.
Right.
Yep.
It's not. And, you know, we don't do staff meetings here. We go to a big church where they do staff meetings, and that senior pastor is sitting in that staff meeting. Everybody's telling him how something else could be done better.
Yeah.
Imagine that feeling all
Every
the time,
single
of
time.
never being able to do enough.
Yeah.
Never being
Like,
able to
okay,
do
if it's not the finances, it's the worship team.
Yep.
If it's not this, it's that. And
Well, and
Yeah.
and it's probably harder in a small church like we're in, but again, we have a smaller congregation, we have a smaller building than most places, but Roger and I were just in the sanctuary working on the live stream setup and trying to figure out better ways to do. Listen, if I don't do it, nobody else is gonna. I'm spending all of my time coming up with new systems and new procedures, and I somehow have to cast vision for this place.
right.
It's hard, but so many times people believe that senior pastors have it made.
Yeah.
Which is
We-
baffling.
you
to
only
me.
work one day a week. You just work on Sunday, right? You just work on Sunday, right? Listen, I went
That's when everybody just sees you.
right.
working.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to the nursing home and saw Jackie,
Mm-hmm.
Courtney's mom, Tyler's mother-in-law, and as I'm driving in, I get a text from work that somebody was upset with another employee, and the next thing I know, it's a blow up in a public forum. So we have like
Oh, my.
they're group chats basically, but they're inside of a controlled environment, and I mean these two are fighting, like just verbally assaulting one another, and I am like. So I get there, I walk in, and I'm sending a text like, "Hey, can we please put a pin in this? I'll deal with this. I'm at a hospital visit. Like,
Yeah.
please, like, let's
Yeah.
pause." And it kept going. And I was like, I can't be everywhere at one time. I can't. It's not
Even
realistic.
virtually,
It's
you were
not
trying-
realistic. It is not
No.
realistic
Nope.
to think that people can do that.
Nope.
And I really don't think that people give enough credit to those in ministry, those in positions of leadership. It is a hard job, but people always think, well, you only work on Sundays, or you only do. Like, I brag on the worship team. We've only sang 2 Sundays at this point, but we're learning literally new music every week.
Yeah.
When we do 5 songs, 4 songs, whatever, we've probably learned those in less than an hour. They're not perfect. We don't intend for them to be. We can't get
They don't
that.
need to
We
be.
can't get
Right,
perfect in
because
an
we
hour.
are truly in worship.
You won't
Yeah,
even
we are
notice.
praising
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay.
Well, that you kind of opened up where I was going with mine. There's a person that has been in our life, Jarvie and I's life, that we kind of held him up a little bit, and I reached out to him about someone that.
When
Just-
you say held him up, do you mean
I-
held him in high regard?
We
or?
did.
Okay.
I mean, we had respect for him, and he was a church leader, and we just believed. It's kind of one of those things you just believed everything they said until they showed their true colors.
Yeah.
So here I am. I'm been sending some text and uplifting things to a person, and they're just not responding at all, which sometimes that just happens. She picks and chooses who she'll respond to. So I just reached out to him because she attended a church that he goes to. And his response was, I don't even bother anymore. I got 120 people that I have to worry about. He said, that do respond. He said, God's just telling me not to waste my time on those who don't respond.
He said, that's not of God.
And,
Right.
that was like, are you serious?
Well, as you're saying that, it dawned on me that somebody had sent me a text that I hadn't responded to. And they're not a regular congregant here, but I realized I hadn't responded. So I picked up my phone to respond. And I'm responding to that with, hey, I am so sorry that I didn't respond sooner. Because I'm going to humble myself and admit that I made the mistake,
Yeah.
Right.
rather than
Absolutely.
saying that person's not important to me.
Right.
Yes.
Because that's asinine to me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I so bad wanted to, I just kind of said, well, yeah, I guess God just laid this on my heart and not on yours, huh?
Well, and you know what? And as funny as it is, like we laugh like that's a zinger. You know what? It's true though.
Right.
It's
True.
true.
Yes.
Listen, there are 2
Just like
people.
your verse.
There are 2 people who have abandoned our church and are attending another church. And it has been killing me. I mean, eating me alive. And I'm like, I need to reach out to him and I need to just say, hey, I want you to know that I love you and I care for you and I'm happy that you've found a home.
Did you get a response back?
No, I haven't
He
done
hasn't
it.
done
I haven't done it. And here's the reason. Because those people post horrible things about us on Facebook or on social media. Like if somebody posts a Facebook post about us, oh, those people are terrible. They're all blah, 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 blah. And openly lie about situations that happened in their lives that they say that we did this or we did that. And I'm like, you know what? Why am I so, because it doesn't matter. Like, because what I really want to do is defend us. I want to defend myself. I want to say, you know what? I wouldn't have known that about you had so-and-so not told me that about you.
Right.
I know that it's true, and that's why you're mad, because I called you out on it. And I want to do that. But what good do I get out of that?
Yeah.
I get nothing out of that. They get nothing out of it. And again, the filter, is it going to glorify them? Is it going to glorify God? And am I going to regret it? The answer is yes, I am going to regret it.
That's right.
It is not going to glorify them. And no, it's not going to glorify God.
I so bad wanted to send him. What is it? I think it's in Matthew.
A middle finger emoji. That's what I would have wanted to send him.
I so bad wanted to send that, if a man has 100 sheep, won't he leave to
The
99.
Right. Yes.
the 99 to
for the one.
save
Yeah,
the one?
yeah.
And Don's like, well, did you send that one? I'm like, no, because that just opens up a door for argument, and he loves to argue the word. And I'm not. What good is that going to do?
Right.
Well, and I think
But
for
he hates
both,
it worse when you don't respond.
Oh,
yeah.
that drives him nuts.
I was going to say, I think for both cases, both of these people are emotionally unstable, and
yeah.
there's nothing you can do
Well,
about it.
here was this.
Like-
This was the hard part for me. I had lunch with the pastor of the church that they're going to, and he says to me, "Hey, just so you know, so and so they've started attending my church." I'm like, "Yeah, I heard that." And he goes, "Well, I just wanted to let you know I've started seeing some really great spiritual growth." And I looked at him. And I said, well, obviously you aren't on social media, because if you're seeing spiritual growth, they wouldn't be acting the way that they're acting.
That's right.
Right.
And he's like, well, yeah, I don't use social media. I said, then you don't know your flock. And I just said it just like that. Then you don't know your flock.
Yep.
Because I can show up at church on Sunday and I can put on my little halo and I can be holier than thou and tuck my
Everybody can
tail
do
into my
that.
pants. And then when I walk out on Sunday and I'm like,
Well, and a lot of the times people will just post something on Facebook and delete it an hour later. So,
yep. Yep.
My concern is that he's misleading
Oh,
Yeah.
this flock.
yeah.
yep.
And most people don't even know.
Oh, no, they don't.
Yep.
No.
It's really, really hard. And, I would never touch God's anointed because that's not my place.
Right.
But I have to sometimes sit and wonder, are they? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to let God figure that out. That ain't my place. But there are ministries that I won't support. If you come to me about certain local ministries, I'm sorry, I'm out. I'm a no. I'm a hard no. And I'm a hard no because I know behind the scenes what has happened. I've heard it. I've seen it. And I've heard it from their own mouths, the
Right.
leaders of these churches, their own mouths, because they think like there's a certain amount of pride that they've gotten away with something. Like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
so-and-so did this, but, we just kind of like, as long as you do this and we do that, then we won't say anything to anybody else. Unacceptable.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Absolutely.
Because you're putting other people at risk.
Yep.
The safety of my people is the number one priority. That's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a quick hour.
It's been an hour
It's
already?
53 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quick.
And that's without Nick here.
Yeah, I know. If Nick were here, who knows where we would be. Right? Certainly we would have talked about the Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Certainly.
Yes, somehow.
Yeah.
I asked Chase what his thoughts were. He's like, well, Johnny Manziel or Trent Richardson. Just pick one.
We need to just have him on with us sometime. We just need to bring Chase on.
Oh my
sometime.
God. Yep.
But it's funny that you would say that because even in the small things, so I'm not a sports fan.
Right.
I'm not a sports fan at
Yeah,
all.
but you're playing Madden.
That's what I was going to say. And now I'm like, okay, football's not so bad. Like, I can handle this sport. I wouldn't mind watching it. Like,
Yep.
But
if you, because you're learning, you're understanding
Yes.
it a
Yes.
little bit.
it's
Yes.
not fun when you don't get it.
Right.
What
Definitely.
joy is there when you
Right.
don't get? Now, am I ever going to be like? First of all, you're never going to see me go sit in the cold to watch a football game. Like you can forget that.
How
Never
about
gonna
watching tennis on TV?
happen. No, thank you.
Oh, no.
Golf.
That's like watching paint dry. But so the guy who cuts my hair, just nicest guy you'll ever meet. He and his wife, two of the nicest people you ever meet. Christians. I'm talking like holistic, like very, very, very like great people, like wonderful people. And he said that most of the time in their house, they just have golf on TV.
Oh my God.
I'm like, okay, I thought you knew Jesus, but now I'm pretty sure. Because who just watches golf? But they said it's a sport that relaxes them, and like it's just
Well, I guess I
calming.
could see that.
right. It's not high energy contact sport where everybody's screaming all the
Right,
time,
yeah.
and it's like
Yeah.
like they're whispering into the.
Yes.
Oh, and he's putting off the green. Yeah.
Well, I guess I don't understand the game.
Exactly. So you can't enjoy it. And I'm the
can't
same
enjoy
way.
it.
I sit here and think golf is a dumb game. But I bet if I went out and started golfing, you know, my brother-in-law is the general manager at Zor Golf Club. He used to be the golf pro at the country club. Like, he would take me to the driving range and he would be hitting them out past the tree line, and I'm lucky to get him over the first bump. And he's like, well, you gotta follow through. I go, shut up.
Like, first you gotta have your driver.
Shut up. I'm like, I'm bringing in my putt-putt club.
You're like, this one, right?
Yeah, this is the one I need, right?
And it's a little short.
I don't know any. Yeah, it's a kids putt-putt club at that. I don't know anything about the
Hey,
sport.
at least you didn't bring a hockey stick.
Yeah,
Chase and I have gone, and like, I can normally drive pretty well, but like my putts and anything else is just terrible.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I could drive and then he could do the rest of it,
Yeah, you'd be okay.
We'll be good.
Yeah, you'd be okay. The one thing I'm really good at, so I worked the Twin City Chamber of Commerce golf scramble here in where they do it at Five Waters.
Yeah.
And so the one thing I'm really good at is driving the golf cart. I can handle that.
Yeah.
Although I don't always fully understand where the next hole is at.
Yeah.
Because it's like not like they don't give you a road map. You just kind of gotta.
Yeah, you just go.
You just
follow
kinda-
the crowd.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, look for the next person. So anyhow,
It is enjoyable and relaxing. I go about once every 2 years. Whenever
it's your
go.
vacation.
Well, whenever I get around my son, because he's an avid golfer.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't get it.
I go bowling once a year.
and you know, but it is enjoyable. You just kind of, you know. Of course,
Yeah.
he has to watch my bowl because I have no idea where it goes. I said, where'd it go?
He needs like one of those
there.
bright yellow ones.
Yeah.
Where'd it go? It's right in front of you. You missed it completely, man. It didn't even go
It's
in the
still
air.
on the tee.
Yeah, it didn't even go in the air.
There's a lot of truth to that also.
So when you go bowling, Dawn, how do you do?
118.
Okay, that's good. I'm usually in the 80s, so and not the 180s, the 80s.
No, I will say, like, I'm on a bowling league, and 2 out of the 3 games, they're normally like 118, 120, 125.
I suck at bowling.
And that's me going every other weekend.
The
So
first time I ever bowled, I was 18 because the women at the nursing home were on a league, but they had a couple that would never show up. So
Yeah.
they were always forfeiting. And they're like,
You're the alternate.
you're dependable.
Yeah.
You come to work, you're 18 and you come to work,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
never call off. Will you bowl with us?
Yeah. I went to, I don't know why I was at the bowling alley, but I was at the bowling alley, and there's this guy over there, and he's bowling strike
probably at
after
the bar.
strike after strike after strike. And I'm like, I don't get it. How do you do that? Like, he like has this weird undercurl when he releases the ball, it spins and twists, and like, I'm like, yeah, can we put the bumpers up?
Right? Every time I step up, I'm like, is my thumb supposed to be up? Is it supposed
Yeah.
to be
Right?
up? How am I supposed to hold this ball?
Yeah, can I granny bowl? Is that still a thing? I don't know.
my brother-in-law's on our team, and it's his first year. He will go up and like throw it with 2 hands, and like all these other ones are like looking at where. Don't get me wrong, I do this too. Like looking at where it needs to be thrown, what board I need to
doesn't
stand
matter.
at. He just goes up there, like throws it, and has this crazy spin, and like gets strike after strike, and it drives them insane.
Yeah.
And he walks back, he's like, I think they're mad. I'm like, yeah, could you just walk up there and sink? And it's just like
They're overthinking it.
Oh,
Have you
yeah.
ever seen the Beverly Hillbillies, the movie? So it was made in the 90s, and I don't really like. So it was basically the whole series, the whole sitcom series, kind of condensed into a movie. And Jethro, when they move into the house in Beverly Hills, Jethro,
There's a bowling alley in
the house, and he rolls the ball down the gutter, and then he slides down the lane, knocks down all the
pins.
and he calls them snake bashing clubs. I'm like, that's kind of how I want to bowl. Just slide down the lane and knock everything down.
Perfect.
Yeah. So he thinks you're racing the ball down the gutter. So I was like,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that now.
That's kind of my speed for bowling. I am just a terrible bowler. But I'm not a sports person at all. Like
Yeah.
I've never
I
been.
enjoy bowling. I think it's fun, but I'm not
It
good
is
at
fun.
it.
My wife is really good at tennis, which is also very annoying because she's like, hey, can we go play tennis? I'm like, no, you're going to beat me and that's not fun.
We should play because
Because she's
I played
gonna
in high
lose.
school. Well, Chase is like good. And I'm like, I played in high school and he's better than me.
I suck. I mean,
I've never played tennis.
It's a
I
fun
love
one.
badminton.
I was going to say,
That's my
I have a
speed.
hard time at
That's my-
badminton.
I'll tell you what, badminton and cornhole. Those are the two sports I can play. And maybe croquet. Maybe
yeah,
croquet.
absolutely.
Because that doesn't really require a lot of skill.
That's one of my
Yeah, it
favorites.
doesn't really require a lot of skill. But I have, like, my wife went, she's like, hey, let's go over to the tennis court. We'll just
go.
we take a big bag of balls and we just. I can't get one over the net. I'm like, and she's like, well, don't backswing there. You know, do it. I can't even hit the ball when I swing regardless. Like, but I have very, very almost no hand-eye coordination when it comes to those things. That's why playing Madden. So video games are supposed to help with that, I guess. I don't know if that's true or not, but
It is what they
See
say.
that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because my senior year, like I played volleyball up until my senior year, and then I'm like, nope. Like we all hated the coach. She told us we were lost causes. Like 6 of us quit. Like nope.
I remember.
Oh
her.
yeah. And I said, screw this. I said, I'm golfing
just
and
like
I'm
that.
bowling.
Screw this.
I
You
learned-
golfed?
Not golfed. I was between tennis and golf.
Okay.
I decided to do tennis and then bowling. And now I'm like, well, tennis, like, it's something that I learned that I can just go play now. And bowling, I went to districts and I'm like, I had the time of my life.
Yep.
Like, that 1 year versus the 3 in volleyball, that was terrible.
I was told that pickleball is a mixture of tennis and
badminton.
Yes. They use the tennis courts, I know. And badminton.
Yeah, but
Rackets?
No,
Yeah,
it's
paddles.
the
No?
paddle. It looks like ping pong paddles, and they've got holes in them. They're very small. But pickleball is like the new up and coming sport.
Oh, yeah. Mal's playing like every night.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's way too much running around for me.
That's the way I am. Like if I'm gonna run, something better be chasing me. That's the only way I'm doing it. Like
Well, that was something I was
I'm
like,
telling you, if you see me running, you
We
know
better-
something's
everybody
chasing
better
me.
be running.
no, I was just going to say that was something I was like, oh, tennis and bowling. Okay, whatever.
Right.
And then I had the time of my life.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was full circle moment.
again, another one of those things that you didn't.
Exactly.
you
That's
didn't
what I'm
think that
saying.
would be. Yeah.
It was on topic after all.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Anything fun? Any parting wisdom? No? Okay. Well, I want to just say this to anybody who's listening. Be kind to your pastor and people in leadership in the church. Like, give us some grace.
Be kind to everybody.
Yeah,
Amen.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
yes, be kind to
especially-
everybody.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
so many people that we assume have life easy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are people who we look at and we go, oh, they've got it made. Like, those people need kindness too. So,
Yeah.
okay, who's praying? Dawn, it's your turn.
I don't think so. But
I don't
that's
think so
okay.
either, but I'm just picking at random at this point. So
I'm making eye contact, trying. I shouldn't have. 'cause
Dear precious Heavenly Father, we come to you, dear Lord, to thank you for this day, Lord. Lord, again, I want to thank you for this platform that we have, that we can touch someone, Lord Jesus, even if it's just one, Lord. Lord God, we just know that you are close to those who are brokenhearted. We know that you are close to those who feel unworthy or that they've been told that they are not enough, that those people, if they become a Christian, they are part of your family, Lord God.
yes.
yes.
And Lord God, I just pray that everyone here tonight has traveling graces home and that they make it back on the next appointed time. And Lord God, I just pray for Pastor Holly as she is starting her Bible study, Lord God, and that we will just continue to spread your word, Lord. And all these things we ask and pray in your Son's most precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.